So before we get into your new single you just released, here at Bionic Buzz, we are all about people's passion. I like to know where your passion for music came from. Was a certain album you heard, a certain live performance you saw, or something that was naturally for you as a child?
It started very early as a young child. I just was drawn to the musical tastes of my parents and my uncle, one uncle in particular named Maxie,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's where my love for salsa music came. Um, yeah, and
Very
then but it's also evolved throughout the years because of I also had a love for hip hop music and other types of music because of getting those influences from my older siblings.
very
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah,
Well, before I guess you're a musician, you were part of this Puerto Rican traveling theater. Is that correct? Like,
I'm an actor. I started my career as a spoken word artist doing poetry at the New Rican Poets Cafe back in the late '90s.
oh, really?
Um,
That's cool.
yeah, and the poetry led to the theater. Doing work in the theater led to film and television. I always had a passion for singing since I was a kid, and eventually was able to kind of put them all together and start singing professionally as well.
I love it. You're so talented. Amazing. So you
Thank
just
you.
released your first single.
Yeah.
I'm dyslexic, so I hope I pronounce this right. La Vida. Sing a song to
Close.
life.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cántale a la vida.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, talk about the writing process. Like, how long have you been working on this song? You know.
What's it was a definite, it's definitely an 100% pandemic production. The melody of the song came to me in early March, I want to say. And it was the first time where the entire form of the song came to me, just the melody, no lyrics or anything. And it was just something that I was humming for a while. And Eventually I called a very good friend of mine who is a Latin Grammy winning singer songwriter and Latin musician himself,
Mhm.
Obi Bermudez. And I called him more for advice about songwriting process, and I kind of knew the answer, what the answer was going to be, because it was the proverbial chicken or egg question. I was like, does melody come to you first and then you add lyrics, or what's it? And he kind of was like, for him it's both. Sometimes he has phrases and lyrics, and then the melody comes later, and vice versa. So I was like, all right, cool, that didn't help, but but then I sent him a voice note of the entire melody that I had in my head, and I had written 4 lines. And apparently what the message that was already established with those 4 lines and the feel of the melody talked to him, that he responded and was like, this is beautiful, do you mind if I write with you? I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'd be honored. And yeah, and a couple of days later he came back with some gorgeous lyrics, and we went back and forth and edited. And yeah, it was a true privilege to collaborate with such an amazing songwriter on my first solo recording.
That's amazing. And it's something
And
positive that comes out of this pandemic. You know, it's a song. So.
absolutely,
And you
absolutely.
picked a really interesting, I guess it was an old photo from the cover of the single. That's, I guess it's from the 1970s, I believe. Am I
So the entire creation of this entire song, from the music and writing of the lyrics to the artwork and cover art, was it's all been a labor of love and kind of calling in favors, for lack of a better word, of friends of mine. So
That's how the
so
industry is. I know of that
it,
too well.
it
Yeah.
was so cool though that people were willing to join a project like that without any hesitation. So the arrangement of the tune was created by a multi-Grammy winning brother by the name of Oscar Hernandez, who is an arranger, composer, and a band leader. He has a band called the Spanish Harlem Orchestra that has won multiple Grammys, both American Grammys and Latin Grammys.
Ooh.
And he, I've met him a couple of times through a bass playing for one of the bass players of my band in Los Angeles, a living legend by the name of Eddie Resto. And Oscar Hernandez was gracious enough to do this arrangement for me. I sent him the audio recording of the lyrics of the tune, and yeah, he did this out of the kindness of his heart and was just like, here you go. And it was like this amazing music. So that's that. Then the people that recorded it, all friends of mine, and they recorded it individually. No one was in the same place at the same time. It was a completely quarantined recording process. People were all over the country, Puerto Rico,
oh wow,
LA, New York, Texas.
That's so cool. It's one good thing about, I mean, because I've interviewed a lot of other musicians during this, this shutdown pandemic, and thank God for technology, because a lot of them,
oh my God,
sending just tracks to each other. Thank goodness we have new art for us to enjoy too.
Absolutely. No, it's so important to continue to stay creative during these difficult times, and it's true. If it wasn't for technology, it'd be a tougher thing. A lot of people will be learning how to play instruments and different things like that. You know what I mean? I'd probably come out of it playing guitar. But the arrangement was done by Oscar Hernandez, right? And then back to your original question about the cover art. That photo was taken by a friend of mine who is this amazing photographer named David Gonzalez, who has works with the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken, and just has these very iconic photos of old school New York and specifically the Bronx. And he's a part of this collective of photographers called El Seis del Sur, 6 from the South, Bronx. And these people have taken some iconic photographs of the Bronx and New York City during the era of the 60s, 70s, and up until now. And I gave him a call because I wanted the cover art to be a cool photograph, and I sent them the song and asked them if it spoke to him, if anything, and if there are any images in his archives that he's like willing to part with, or like just willing to donate to the cause, really. And and he came back with that photo, and that photo was taken in 1970 or 69 in East Harlem, New York City, at a live concert in the street. And the people that were in the photo were dancing to the sounds of Machito and Graciela, who are iconic Latin musicians from the 50s and 60s and the mambo era. So,
wow, it really captures the spirit of your song too. I think
oh man, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then the cover art was done by my co-writer Obi. He was like, I got you. And I was like, dude, what don't you do? Like, so, But yeah, so I'm super proud of how it all came together, and just like feel blessed that I had collaborators that I did.
Very nice. Anything in the works? I know stuff's kind of hard now with the pandemic, but it's like you could do a music video for this, or another single or EP down the line, or.
I want to work on the next single. I'd love to work on visuals. I'm thinking of the ideas of doing maybe even something animated and stuff like that. It's just so expensive. And
I used to do animation. I know.
I could only imagine, right?
Yeah, and time consuming too.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I just want to stay creative. I just want to continue to create. I'm happy with the response that this particular single is getting, and it's inspiring to keep me moving and make me want to come back with something else. And also, just trying to spend more quality time with my family, which is a positive of this quarantine and this pandemic, and continue to stay positive and try to stay active physically and stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, where can people stay up to date? Is there a website, social media wise, with you?
Social media, Flaco Navaja at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
All right, thank you so much for taking your time to talk to me, and we'll talk down the road when you got your new music out.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing it. And yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.